In this video, I'm going to walk you through how you can set up your own pool for solo mining peercoin. In the previous videos in the series, we set up a base instance of NOMP, and we went over the algorithms that you can mine in NOMP. One of those is SHA-256, which is the Bitcoin algorithm, and peercoin also runs on that algorithm. So today we're going to be setting up peercoin. Now, if you wanted to set up Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV, Digibyte, pretty much any SHA-256 coin, process is going to be very similar. But for our purpose, we're going to be setting up peercoin because the hash rate is generally low. That we're attempting to hit a solo block with a really old device that it's going to be hard to hit on peercoin, but it would be nearly impossible to hit on any other blockchain. So peercoin is what we're going with today. And the steps are going to be really straightforward. We are going to use Docker. We're going to load the Docker image I've already created for peercoin, get the blockchain up and running, get it synced, and then we're going to configure the mining pool to connect to it. And then we will be able to connect our miner to the mining pool will connect to the node, and we will be solo mining. It may sound complicated, but it actually is really simple to get this up and running with only a couple steps. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to hop on over to our server, and we're going to create a folder called peercoin. So it's going to be .peercoin. And we're also going to want to create a config file. So that for that, we're going to do nano.peercoin, and it's going to be peercoin.conf. And this is going to be the standard config file that you're going to set up for establishing RPC connections and setting up a few other things as well. This will be a standard practice. Anytime we spin up a node, pretty much these settings are going to be pretty much all the same. And essentially what we're looking at is rpcport. Well, the first one's going to be server equals 1. This is going to tell it to actually run the RPC server. And then we're going to do rpcport. We'll be putting a port number in. RPC username will be and then rpcpassword. We'll be giving this credentials. And we're also going to have a block notify in here. So server going to be 1. RPC port, this can really be anything you want. Typically, I start with like 9001 as my starting port for each of my nodes. So my first node I spin up, I'll do 9001. The second one, I'll do 9002. Third one, I'll do 9003. This doesn't really matter as long as it doesn't conflict with any other running services. So for this purpose, we'll just do 9001. We'll do pooluser for the username. Again, you can make this whatever you want. Poolpassword. And then for the block notify, it's very important that you keep this path exactly as I'm going to put it here. So it's going to be /usr /bin/block notify. Now this is a file that I've included in my Docker container. What this does is every time there's a new block found on the network, it sends a message to the pool software so that the pool immediately knows it's time to start searching for a new block. So it's not trying to solve the old block for a few seconds. It just optimizes our hashing time. And then we're going to just do 127.0.0.1 :17117. This is our local host, and this is the port number that NOMP listens on. And then we're going to use peercoin. This is going to be the same name that we're going to name in the actual file for the pool configuration. And then we're going to do %s. And this is basically going to send the updated block number in that notification. Control X, Y, enter to save. And now we just need to run the Docker command to spin up the peercoin node. So to do that, we're going to do a sudo docker run /d to run detached. We'll make sure the network is host. Restart as always. Our max log file size we're setting to 10 megs. We're naming this peercoin, and we're doing a volume mapping to that folder we created. So the user account I'm logged in as is pool. So it's going to be /home/pool/.peercoin, which is that folder that we've created. And we're going to map that to root/.peercoin. And then it's just going to be the image name on Docker Hub. So it's going to be theretromike/nodes:/peercoin. Now if we hit enter, this is going to go through. This is going to download the image that has all the node files in it. And it's going to start it up. And then we should be able to see, once that's up and running, if we hop on over to the Dozzle dashboard that we set up in a prior video, we should see that it's starting to sync the blockchain. So we're just going to give this a minute and let it actually start up the node. So now that we've got this GUID, we know that the Docker container is running. We're going to hop on over, and I believe it is running on port 8081. Oops. And then it's going to be our pool demo server. And we've got peercoin here. And we can see it has started up the node. And we can see it's doing pre-synchronizing now. And so we're basically just going to wait for this to sync all of the block headers, and then it'll start syncing all the blocks. Now this is an older blockchain, which means there's a lot of history to it. So it may take quite a while to sync. But while that's syncing, we can set up the actual pool software to look at this node. So if we hop back on over, and I'm just going to double check that config file. .conf. Okay, so port 9001, pool user, pool password. All right, so now what we want to do is, in a prior video, we created a .rmt-nomp folder. So we're going to move into that folder, and then within that there's a config folder we're going to look at. And within this we have pool_configs. So we want to go into that folder. And this is where we're going to create our peercoin pool config file. If you set everything up like I did in the prior video, you should have this Litecoin example one. Easiest thing to do is just do a copy of that. So we're going to do a CP on that, and we're going to name it peercoin.json. And now we're going to do a nano on the peercoin.json. And there's a few things we're going to change here. So we're going to change the coin to be peercoin.json. The address, we will come back to this. We're going to need to generate a new wallet address. I'll show you how to do that here in a minute. But scrolling through the payment processor, we're going to leave this as default, except for we're going to change the port to our node. So we set that on port 9001. We called it pooluser. And we called the password poolpassword. This is used to actually run the payment processing. And this is where you can define that interval. We are also going to, I'm actually going to scroll down first. We'll come back to the port section here in a minute. But I'm going to go down to this daemon section. And we need to put in our information here as well. So you need to put the node information in both the payment processing and also the daemon section. So make sure you do both of those. We'll do pool password here. If you want to use peer-to-peer, you can do that. There is some extra config needed for that. In this case, I'm going to set that to false. MPOS mode will be false. Shouldn't need to set that on anything unless you are running MPOS. And up here, we can set our port that we want it to actually listen on. So in this scenario, I'm going to put 3001 here. I'm actually going to delete these lines up here, these 3 lines. And I'm going to delete these 3 lines down here. We can get rid of that. And so what we've ended up with now is we're just going to have one stratum port. And this diff is going to be the starting difficulty. I'm using a really old hardware, so I'm going to set this to a really low value. And then I'm going to set the min difficulty to that as well. The max difficulty, I'll just set the 1020, actually I'll set it to 4096 for this. This is an ASIC based coin, so you might want to set the max a little bit high. You really can't go too high. It's just gonna, this is gonna be the range that's gonna allow the difficulty adjustment to be in. And this is gonna be different for each blockchain you're using. So now at this point, we should pretty much have everything set up, but we want to make sure we have a peercoin.json file in our coin config. So we're going to check that. And then we're going to need to generate a wallet address that is going to be used for actually getting all the blocks and then issuing payment back out. So we're going to do Control X, Y, enter to save. And then we're going to move up a folder. And we're going to move into the coins folder, and we're going to do an ls, and we're going to look for peercoin.json. It's already there, so we are good to go. If it wasn't here, we would need to create it, and we could use another coin as a sample for that. Probably in the next video when I do like a Nova, I will show that to you. But essentially all you're doing is you're putting the name of the coin, the symbol, and the algorithm. But we've already got that set up. So now let's just double check and make sure it's still syncing. It is. You can see it's back in 2013. So that's going to take a while to sync. No problem. It's about 5% complete. So while that's syncing, we need to generate a wallet address. So to do that, we're actually going to run a Docker command that's going to execute a command against that container to give us a new wallet address. So to do that, we're just going to do a sudo docker exec. So this is an execute command. And we're going to execute against the peercoin container. And we want to make sure after exec we do -it. That's going to be interactive. Then we're going to do sh. This is now going to put us into the container so that we can run any commands that we want. So if we do an ls, we can see we've got peercoin files, we've got block notify, all of that. We should be able to do peercoin-cli space get new address. And it's going to tell us there's no wallet loaded. Oh, what you need to do is you need to create a wallet first. And so to do that, we're just going to do, and this will make things real simple, we're just going to do peercoin CLI, and we're going to do create wallet, and we're going to call it default. Now, depending on what node you're running, some of them will auto-load a default wallet, and some won't. But what we've done is we've created that wallet. Now if we do peercoin CLI get new address, we now have an address that we can use. Now on some nodes you might need a legacy address. You can get that by running peercoin CLI space get new address space, you can do double quotes space, and then you can do legacy in double quotes. If you do that, that will give you a legacy address that is in somewhat of a different format. Either of these will work. They all point back to the same hosted wallet. So either way you decide to do it will be fine. But we can basically just copy this now. And then we can type exit. That's going to exit out of the interactive session of the container. And then we want to go back to the pool config file. So pool configs, we're going to do a nano on the peercoin one. And in this address, we're going to paste in our wallet address that we just created. And then what I like to do is I like to do a reward recipient. This is basically how you set up like a pool fee. So in this case, it's going to be 0.1%. And I'm going to put in the same wallet address there. What this is going to do is this is going to make sure there's always funds in the wallet to handle the transaction fee for the payouts. So that's why I leave a little bit, and at any point in the future, you can always go in the wallet and manually send the funds or remove the reward recipient. But I definitely recommend leaving it in there, at least for a little while. Let it accrue some rewards. So at this point, this should be everything that we really need. We're going to go up and set enabled to true. Control X, Y, enter. Now, in order for it to pop up in NOMP, we have to restart the NOMP service. So to do that, we're going to do sudo docker restart rmt-nomp. And then while that's restarting, we're going to hop back on over to Dazzle. We can see that this is still syncing. NOMP is restarting, so we're just going to give this a minute and let it do its thing and restart. And while that's restarting, one other thing I like to do is if we go back to our home folder and go into the .peercoin folder and do nano peercoin.conf. The other thing that you can do in here is you can do wallet equals default. And what this will do is anytime the node is starting up, it'll always attempt to load that default wallet that we created. So I do like to include that just as a failsafe. Some nodes will auto load the last wallet that was there before the node shut down. Some do not. And so that wallet basically will, if the system reboots, it will auto load that wallet. Let's hop back on over here. Looks like it's still restarting NOMP. So we'll give that a minute. And if we take a look at peercoin, we can see it has sped up quite a bit. It's almost 20% synced. So it's not taking as long as I thought it would. And if we take a look, we can see we're actually having a invalid RPC access trying to connect to the node. And let's hop back on over. Let's take a look at the peercoin.conf. I may have mistyped something. I did. So I typed RPC username. It's actually rpcuser equals that. And again, I'll have these in the command list below. But just make sure it's rpcuser. Do Control X, Y, enter. Now, anytime you change that config file, you do need to restart the Docker container. So we're going to do a sudo docker restart peercoin. And that may take a minute to reboot, or restart the service rather, but when that comes back up, the pool should establish a connection to it. And we've got it pre-synchronizing again. It's going through checking the block headers, which it will do on initial launch every time. And anytime I restart the nodes, I do like to restart the pool as well once the node is up and running, just so that the pool is kind of establishing a clean connection with it. So we went ahead and did a sudo docker restart NOMP while that initial sync is still happening on the pool. And so you can see if we take a look at container logs, you can see we stopped the container, restarted it. And if we take a look at peercoin, it's back to syncing the blockchain again. It's kind of catching itself up on where it left off. So we'll let that thing sync up. Okay, and the NOMP pool service has restarted. And what we can see here is that it is syncing still, which obviously is to be expected. But it tells us here the server will be started once the blockchain is fully synced, because obviously we can't actually mine to it until the blockchain is synced. But the nice thing about this is it actually gives us the progress in here. So we can see it's currently 3.46% downloaded. And if you just kind of leave this up, you can see when it's done. And then if we hop on over to the web dashboard, we can see we now have peercoin on here. We've got SHA-256. If we head to get started, we've got our information here. Now we can update this by changing the pool config file so it has the IP of the system. And then But this will basically tell us the algorithm is SHA-256. The port that you're going to be running on is port 3001. The starting difficulty is going to be this. And that's pretty much all there is to it. And then once you start mining, you'll show up in the worker stats. And the table stats will show here as well if you ever find a block. And graph stats will be here as well. So all you have to do in order to get this thing to mine, once the blockchain is synced, would be to hop on over to your ASIC. So this is actually a Ant Router R1 BTC miner. And I'm actually mining peercoin to a different system that I have running peercoin node. But all you would need to do is come in the R1 miner configuration and put it here. In fact, what we can do is we can set it up as a failover pool now that we've got a second one running. And we're going to just put in our same information here. Hit save and apply. That'll go ahead and save that. Hop on over to R1 miner status. And we'll just give this a minute for the miner to start back up. And we can see that this actually shows as dead because I forgot to change the port number when I copy and pasted that. So if you remember, we set the pool to run on port 3001. Go ahead and hit save and apply again. Now that we got the port fixed, it's still going to show as dead. And this is because the blockchain isn't fully synced yet. Because it's unable to mine until that blockchain is synced on the node. So we basically just need to wait. This will continue mining on this. This should go to more of an OK status after the blockchain is fully synced. So right now we're sitting at about 20% synced. We're just going to let this thing run, finish syncing the blockchain, and then once it's done, we'll validate the connection. The peercoin blockchain is fully synced now. And if we take a look at the NOMP logs, we can see it's basically just every time there's a block being found, it's doing a notify. We don't actually have anything mining to it yet, but it is fully synced. If we go over to peercoin, we can see we are fully synced. It's 100%. So we're going to hop back on over, give this a refresh, and we can see that that pool now shows alive. It's still set as a failover pool, but it actually did two get works, kind of to test it to make sure it was working. So now we're going to go over to the R1 miner configuration, and I'm just going to swap these two real quick. So we're going to flip this so that the new pool is the primary. Hit save and apply. And then we're going to hop on over to RMT NOMP. And what we should see once that miner restarts on the Ant router is we should see a miner authorization come across. So we'll just give this a minute and we should see that pop up. All right, and it just connected, so we can see the authorized coming from the IP address of our Ant router. And it is submitting tons of shares. Obviously, these are all super low difficulty shares because we set that low starting difficulty. This will, over the course of the next 5 minutes or so, this difficulty will actually adjust to be more in line with the hash rate that we're actually getting. But if we hop on over, we give this a refresh, we can see we've got a couple get works. It is going to that pool now. And so far, 48 accepted shares. And it is hashing away. And then if we hop on over to the web UI and for the pool, give this a refresh. We now have one miner connected. It currently says 4.15 kilohash. This should settle in around 5 gigahash once this is running and the shares are kind of settling in and being calculated poolside. If we go to worker stats, we can see that hash rate with that address, but I like going to the table stats. This will give you kind of the overall pool hash rate, and if any blocks get found, they will show here. So we give this a refresh, you can see that it increased to almost 59 kilohash. So over the course of the next 5 to 15 minutes, this will gradually increase as those shares get submitted. This should become that effective hash rate, which should align pretty well with what we were seeing on the miner dashboard. So that is all there is to getting the pool up and running. Now, once a block gets found, it will confirm. It'll go to that pool wallet that we set up. And then every hour or so, or really on NOMP, it's like every 5 minutes or so, once your balance exceeds the amount that was set, then it will send that payment to this wallet address. So the funds will hit the pool wallet first, they'll confirm, and then they will send out to this wallet minus any reward recipient fee that you set up in that config. And that's all there is to getting a pool up and running on NOMP. You see it's still ramping up there. If there are any other coins that you would like to see set up, drop me a comment below. Definitely get back to the NOMP video and let me know if there's any coins in particular under those algorithms you'd like to see set up or videos on. I plan on doing Innova, which is an FPGA based coin, and Grotto coin, which is a ASIC coin that the Bicles are real famous for being supported on. So those are 2 coins that are in the pipeline to be done. If there's any other coins that you're interested in, definitely drop those in the comments below.